Live. All right. And here's Holly. So today we're going to talk about balancing hormones. And that's going to be our theme for the whole month.
Woohoo, ladies!
And men.
And men.
Men have hormones, right? All men
couple.
start out as women. We'll talk about that. So we have the same hormones too. So this month, the entire month, the theme is balancing hormones naturally, and that means without bioidenticals or synthetics. We just want to make the body work. So as we talk about this, as long as you got the parts, it'll work. And that doesn't mean ovaries, and we'll talk about that, or uterus. So let's see. Do you know the breakdown for the week, or each week?
Ooh.
Yeah.
I can get that.
Okay. No, that's okay. So on our ad, we have it on our Facebook as far as what the breakdown is each time. So like this time we're going to talk about how hormones are made. So that's the very first thing. That's one of the fundamental things that we teach doctors is you have to know how the neurotransmitters are made. You have to know how the hormones are made before you can ever address what's wrong with the patient. So the doctor that knows their anatomy and physiology, the best is going to be able to apply it the best to you. The next week, we're going to talk about eating for your hormones. And then the third week, which is probably the most important because this is more important than trying to basically try to make more hormones, which is stop exhausting your hormones. And for Americans, as you know, last month our theme was anxiety, depression. We are the number one for anxiety, number one for depression. We're one of the least happiest countries in the world. We don't have to be. So the main problem with that is that we exhaust our hormones faster than we make it. And as we talk about hormones, we should really talk about it like money. Okay, so if we spend more money than we make, we end up bankrupt. If we exhaust more hormones than we make, we end up hormonally bankrupt. It's the same mechanism. So as we're talking about this, I want you to keep that in mind. Think money with all this. And Holly will have some good questions too, but we've had some really interesting patients the last couple of weeks on this very topic. So this is a very important one. I mean, half the population is women, but we're seeing women just become hormonally bankrupt by age 35. So this is just becoming a nightmare for America. And men are the same. Men are having the same kind of problems.
I am curious about that, the male perspective.
We just drink through it and distract through it.
Insensitive.
Get sassy, you know.
Oh, okay.
We have our andropause and our man swings. So, we do a very good job masking it. Where women try to hold everything on their shoulders and they fall. And when they fall, everything falls apart because men allow women to kind of hold everything together, myself included. So.
Now we are generalizing a little bit, but on average, that's common.
Right. Okay. So, and then the last month we'll kind of put it all together, or the last week of the month we'll put it all together for you, and we'll talk about some case studies, and like we do before, and try to make it all make a lot of sense and kind of clean up any kind of questions or concerns that we've had throughout the other lectures. And please feel free to like this, of course, and share it with your friends and family. We get quite a bit of response from this, and I'm very excited. It's very humbling to have people actually stop you and say, "Oh my God, your last video was so awesome." You know, I love that because we're doing this for you. It's all free information that we're giving to you to help you and help your mom and your sister and your cousins and nieces and all that. And what we want to do is talk about simplicity because simplicity cures, complexity sells. So we're not trying to sell anything, we're trying to help people fix themselves. Mm-hmm. So, and those you know me, I'm board certified in functional medicine, clinical nutrition, integrated medicine, postdoctoral continuing education through Harvard Medical School, Yale Medical School for lifestyle medicine. Serve on several boards, all that kind of stuff. So if you're new to tuning in, or new to this, basically I'm a super nerd, and that's how I help patients. Is I go the next step that their doctors won't go. Mm-hmm. And this is Holly. Hajjaj.
Hajjaj. Yes, I'm Holly Hajjaj. I'm the wellness director here at AFC, or Integrated Wellness Solutions. I help coordinate our different mind-body classes: yoga, tai chi, meditation. I have a background in women's studies. I'm working towards physical therapy. I'm also a personal trainer. And I'm so happy to be here. I'm learning so much at every single talk. And I'm really excited too, because I've seen a lot of progress in some of the small things that I've done in my own life as a result of these talks. So super happy to be here. Glad you guys are here too. Please comment, and like Dr. G said, share, ask burning questions, throw out a few jokes. It makes it all that much more interesting and fun.
Yeah, and I'll tell some jokes that may or may not be funny. If they weren't funny, then it's just sarcastic. So
right,
which is fun.
Right.
And if you have questions, post them. So Holly and me will be going through the feed as we do the talk. If you guys want any clarifications or have any questions, don't sit back. I try to keep the talk somewhere in here, but sometimes I go way too high. And again, there's no dumb questions. There's just dumb people, and they live in the South. So,
right.
Well, not your South, the other South. You know what I'm talking about. I'm from Texas, so I can say that. Right? Okay, so let's draw a few pathways and talk about how your hormones function. So we're going to cross a little border of hormones and neurotransmitters as we talk about this. For the most part, they act very similar. They're affected very similarly as we go through this. The only difference really is hormones are passed through the blood and basically go from a gland to a distant organ. They have more of a global effect. Neurotransmitters typically have a very short pathway and have a very quick effect. So I'm going to use them interchangeably a little bit, because some hormones are neurotransmitters and some neurotransmitters are hormones, but essentially it's the same pathway, the same physiology for this. So let's see. Let's first address kind of where we're at in the U.S., okay? So we know that from our last talk, we're the number one for anxiety and depression. Because we're Americans, we got to be number one.
We're Americans, and Americans are a mess.
Yes. So we're number one for anxiety and depression. It's like 1 out of 5, 1 out of 10 people, depending on what study we look at. Most people are hormonally exhausted, mostly women, by age 35. Would you guys agree to that? And actually, I think we see it younger. Now, when I first started practicing about 10, 13, 14 years ago, something like that, it was the typical patient we saw was about 55 burning out, hormonally burning out, so hormonally bankrupt. And now it's 35, and we're seeing it a little bit younger and younger as we go. Soon, the expectation will be teenagers will get burned out because of the model that we're going to talk about. So, if we look at how this works, let's say 20 years old, 30 years old, 50 years old, 77 years old.
By the way, Tina says she's 35. Tina from here at the NXC. Yes.
She doesn't look 35. I think she's faking. She's trying to act older. She probably wants us to buy beer for her. So if you look at hormones, like the amount of hormones that we have and our age, and then again, this is just kind of symbolic. So when we're in our 20s and in our teens, we feel freaking fabulous, right? Like when I was that age, there's nothing I could eat or lack of sleep or anything that would get me down. Were you like that too?
Staying up for days on end. Yeah.
Talking on the corded phone, unless you were rich and you had a cordless phone.
Right.
That was the days, right?
Yeah.
Getting all jacked up on soda for
Tetris at 4 a.m. Super Mario Brothers. Yeah.
Yeah. There was nothing that can stop you, and that's because your bank account for hormones was right up here. You were packed full of awesome hormones that balance out that craziness. But then you get married, you have some kids, go to college, get a bunch of bills. And very quickly, we should see this go here. Very quickly, we start to feel it. And in the beginning, from our 20s to 30s, we just start to cope with ineffective methods like distraction, watching TV, playing video games, and eating ourselves to try to be happy. And in the beginning, it works because, bread, it has morphine in it. Dairy has morphine in it. Sugar's more addicting than caffeine. More addicting than crack cocaine. That's why you should always choose crack, not sugar. No, for powder cake, it's a whole different thing, right? So, we do those things because they release dopamine in our brain. And in the beginning, the dopamine dopes us down, so it feels good. So, we had a hard day, the bills are in, I'll just eat myself to happiness.
Yeah.
And we'll do it more and more and more until we can't. And that's because your body works off a process called negative feedback. So we have gland and we have receptors. And your brain says, hey, you're not making enough hormones or neurotransmitters to make me feel good. You're overstressed, overexhausted, and you're basically spending more than you're making. So the gland says, not a problem. I'll just make a heck of a lot more. And then your receptor says, whoa, you just made way too much, buddy. And so the gland says, not a problem. I'll just make a lot less. And so with dopamine, the more dopamine that we make through morphine foods and sugar and distraction, it tricks the body into saying we have too much. So your body then slowly produces less, which then makes you crave even more. And for some people, it'll create an addiction. Sugar addiction, wheat and dairy addiction, ice cream addiction, soda addiction, ketchup addiction. It's ketchup sugar, right? And that's where we're at. And before we do anything else, I wanted to kind of augment this too, is if our receptors say there's too much, so if we add in a drug to make us feel good, let's say we add in dopamine, or we add in serotonin reuptake inhibitor, or we take synthetic hormones like estradiol, then our receptors think there's too much being made, and it'll downregulate your own production. And so that creates a crisis where all we do is keep raising the dose of these natural things or the synthetic things, and there's a point where it won't work anymore. And so that looks like this. I used to do bioidentical hormone replacement therapy when it first came out. It was just like the big thing, and it was very good because it was the only safe way to really address the hormone problem. So what happens is your doctor says, hey, we tested your hormones, they're down here, that's why you feel like crap. All right, what do we do, doc? Well, let's just give you hormones. But I don't want the synthetics because the synthetic hormones can increase your risk of heart disease by 87% within the first year, cancer by 30%. That's what the Women's Health Initiative was stopped because of that, because the scientists felt it was unethical to watch that happen. So we had a better idea. Well, let's just do natural stuff. We'll do bioidenticals. So then I say it's low, I'll just give you some. And what did we just say happens if you give them some?
Downregulates.
You downregulates. So beginning, oh my God, my patients love me. They're like, oh, I feel so better, so much better. I feel fantastic. You're like the best doctor. Your beard is just like so awesome. No, I didn't have a beard back then.
Everyone always comments on the beard.
I just was able to grow this.
It's the most important
recently.
part.
That's right. Before I just had a big, thick Magnum PI mustache. And so, they're feeling great. But, like Holly said, their body downregulates. So then they start feeling like crap. So they come back in 3 months later and they say, Doc, I was feeling great, man. I was just good. And just, how can I get back there? I'm feeling like crap again. And I would say, just like all we were taught, raise the dose. That seems like a good idea. So then we would raise the dose, and then they would feel great again. And then what would happen?
downregulate again.
Downregulating more, yeah, absolutely. And then they would feel like crap again, and they would come back in 3 months later. And then they'd say, Doc, I was feeling great before. Your beard's not looking as fabulous anymore to me because I keep going back downhill. Right. What can we do? And I would say,
raise the dose.
Double the time. Take it twice a day.
Oh.
Double dose twice a day, I'm a genius. But what happens? The same thing. And very quickly, and as a person who taught anatomy and physiology at colleges for 6 years, it didn't take me long to figure out, wait, that's not how we make hormones. That's how we screw up hormones.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, that's not working. How do we actually make hormones? You have the organs, make the hormones.
Right. It seems to me like, even with our last talk, we're using all these different ways to try to substitute for wherever we're lacking. Whether it's like with our last talks with the medications or with the ways in which we cope with the really delicious foods, it's still the same thing. We're still trying to substitute for where we're lacking. But yeah, that was my next question was, well, how do we not just substitute but make the hormones in a way that doesn't downregulate?
Right. So the question is, for like a lot of physiology, if you compare American physiology and say, well, okay, this is normal for humans, or for American humans. But is it true for other countries? And there becomes a stark difference. And that's where we see, as we start coping with this stuff, we hit that hormonal bankruptcy, we start getting medications, and then we end up dying. We feel like utter crap from 20 on. But is that true among all countries? And then if you look at the happiest, healthiest countries, what they do is they just kind of wax and wane, and even if they died at the same year, they had a whole different hormonal balance. And that difference is what's called quality of life. We don't get it, they do, because they didn't take anything for this. They just lived a sustainable lifestyle for that. Just like someone who, retires with money in the bank. Well, let's just do what they do, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, so what is it that we do to start doing what they do?
That's a good question. I thought you were going to tell us that.
You know what?
I feel unprepared.
I'm just trying to be a part of this talk.
Let's cancel it, because I don't even know.
He doesn't like being interrupted, folks.
No,
but
that's not it.
It isn't? That's
You're making my hormones exhausted. She's making my ovaries cry.
Oh.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, no, I got a good idea.
I
got a good answer for that. We stop being like Americans and exhausting our hormones, and we learn how our hormones are made, how we can eat for them, and how we can not exhaust them.
I was trying to get specifics, but good answer.
Oh. All right. So, and it's funny, I think in the healthiest countries, they call this a rectangular lifespan, which is, I feel pretty damn good, and then I die.
Interesting.
So we want to live a rectangular lifestyle. Okay. Which, by the way, if you look at my title up here, balancing hormones, it's not 3D. It's supposed to be out of balance.
Can you even read that? I'm not sure.
I'm an artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, let's talk about serotonin. We'll start with serotonin, and then we'll talk about progesterone, and then we'll talk about dopamine, okay? So this is how this works. With food, we get tryptophan. So tryptophan...
Any food?
Pretty much any food has tryptophan.
Okay.
Nuts, seeds.
It's not just turkey. Okay.
That's right. That's the thing. And for Thanksgiving, which isn't coming up a little soon here, which I don't know why Walmart's decorating for Christmas before Thanksgiving and Halloween. That doesn't make any sense. But for Thanksgiving, they say that turkey makes people sleepy, but what studies show it's not the tryptophan in the turkey that makes them sleepy.
It's the sugar, I bet, or the carbs.
It's all that, yeah.
Yeah, and the overeating.
That's right. The average American eats 5,500 calories for your average Thanksgiving meal. And so it's just sitting there and
no
it
wonder
sucks
you're
up
tired.
all that blood.
That's work.
That's right.
That is work.
So you got no blood for the arms and legs and brain. It's got to go to that gut. So, Isn't that great? We have a holiday to celebrate overeating in a country that overeats.
Yeah.
So, America.
Insult to injury. It's the icing on the cake.
Sorry, I got a cough. All right, so it's all that sugar. All right, so tryptophan we get from food. And again, you know, you can look at certain foods that are high in tryptophan. There's a good book called Potatoes Over Prozac and that kind of stuff. Of saying, well, how do we make these things? So it comes from food. Potatoes aren't even high, which was weird. That the book was named that, but yet potatoes aren't even the highest to make serotonin. So, yeah. All right. So with tryptophan, it uses B vitamins. So it uses B1, B6, and zinc to create L-tryptophan. Tryptophan. Now, the other thing that's really neat, so you have to get B1, B6, and zinc. Zinc, it's in pretty much all foods. Therapeutic dose, I mean, if you buy a supplement, it's like 25, 50 milligrams. That's in food, so that's pretty much worthless. But if you want to do zinc, that's fine. So all those who are prescribed zinc, I'm not telling you to get off your zinc. I'm telling you to, you know, all right, never mind.
Eat for zinc?
Oh, I'm making a joke.
Oh, okay.
So B1 and B6, those are B vitamins. B vitamins are from beans, greens, and fermented foods. You make B vitamins through fermentation in your gut. So those 750 different bacteria, the 3 pounds of your body weight, the 10 times the amount of human cells you have that are bacteria, they dump out B vitamins to keep you healthy and happy. And they do it by converting tryptophan into L-tryptophan first. Okay? So, the problem here, or one of the limiting factors, is you have to have stomach acid too. Acid. So what does that mean, stomach acid? So that means if you take Prilosec or Nexium, then you cut out 99.9% of your stomach acid, and yeah, you're not going to convert that, and you're not going to make serotonin. You're going to feel pretty sad. So, and you probably won't be able to sleep very well. So that's one of the big things is don't screw up the stomach acid. So from L-tryptophan, we convert very quickly through iron and calcium. So let's see, iron, calcium, and then also through another B vitamin, B3. That's why it's nice to have the B complex if you're going to supplement, but really just, eventually you just need real B vitamins. But supplementing a B complex. That is going to convert that into what's called 5-HTP, 5-hydrotryptophan. Now that's something most people have heard of. So
yes,
some people will take tryptophan and it not work. Some people take 5-hydrotryptophan and it works. If it does work, it's because you bypass this because you're not getting those things. Yeah?
Yeah, the 5-HTP.
So then we use zinc, magnesium, and we use vitamin C and B6. Vitamin C and we'll say B6. And that will convert into serotonin. So we take tryptophan and make serotonin because serotonin is mood. Mm-hmm. That's how we feel good, right? So we're back to B6 and magnesium, which is beans and greens, and magnesium is greens. Everything that's green is because of magnesium. And so you want plant blood. And if you eat plants, you're going to get zinc too. So again, it goes back to the people who eat beans and greens and fermented foods. Probably should make no problem. They should have no problem with serotonin, right? And then we make melatonin for sleep. Melatonin. So that's why we see people that don't get enough serotonin. They probably don't sleep well. And we say if you're in a bad mood, you woke up on the wrong side of the...
I can't read your mind,
IKEA bed.
That was good.
We're like, I mean, we can like finish each other's sentences. We're so good. Right. Like the car went out into the
street.
Driveway. That's right. So serotonin is going to convert through B5 and through SAMe. Can you guys see that through her? I think.
He's been trying to cut me out of the picture this whole time.
We'll put it on the other side. B5 and SAMe. So, SAMe becomes the next limiting factor for making melatonin. So we can make serotonin, and we can be like, man, I feel pretty good, but I cannot sleep. Well, that's because we're not converting serotonin to melatonin. So we need SAMe. So where does SAMe come from? I'm glad you asked that, right? So SAMe is the #1 consumed supplement in the United States, and that's because SAMe regulates mood and sleep.
So that's skipping all of this as well. So if you're taking SAMe and it's working, does that mean all the rest of this stuff isn't working?
No, because you can't jump to this.
Okay.
You have to go through that conversion process.
Okay.
So if people don't sleep, I might have them try SAMe from the beginning, and if SAMe works, then we know there's a problem with that pathway. Okay. And it's usually I've overexhausted my B vitamins to make stress. I don't have enough for happiness. So, are you guys cool if I erase this? And I think I have charts I can post too if you want. Okay, so SAMe is made through homocysteine.
So recap real quick.
Yeah.
So that, what you just had up there, that was the process for making our hormones from food.
Right, that's making neurotransmitters and hormones through food.
Okay.
Right, so that's one pathway for happiness and sleep. That's how we make that happen. And you see, it's very consistent what it needs. And that's why in the very beginning with patients that are suffering and that have exhausted themselves, we try to amp them up by just doing a Country Life coenzyme B complex, a methyl B12, and some maybe natural calm magnesium until they get their food maximized to get that nutrition. Yeah?
Yeah. I'm going to have more questions for the ladies going forward. Because ladies, am I right? I mean, we struggle with imbalances that seem extreme.
Yeah.
And so in my head, I'm thinking about, but, you know, I can do all of this, but what happens when I come to my cycle and it's time for that and I'm losing it or mood swinging and whatnot, and what do I do then, and why is that happening?
Well, yeah, so we'll talk about that then too.
Okay.
But one of the interesting things as you brought up is with cycle, birth control pills deplete the vitamins required to make serotonin and melatonin. Anybody that takes birth control, they better be supplementing to get rid of those negative effects because, again, you still lose nutrition to deplete through through birth control pills. Then you don't have them for other things that you need.
So birth control is also another form of supplementation in a way, right?
No. It's the opposite. It makes it worse because it steals your B vitamins.
Well, I was just thinking about supplementing the hormones themselves.
No, you don't want to do that.
Well, I know, but does that create downregulation?
Right.
The supplementing with the hormones from the birth control. Is that how that works?
Right. So birth control fakes high levels of estradiol, which then causes infertility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. But no, that's good. So homocysteine makes methionine. And then that does it through B12. And methionine makes SAMe. So that's why our methyl B12 is so important, because that SAMe that we need for converting serotonin into melatonin helps us sleep. Mm-hmm. So even B12, which is the original antidepressant, long before the pharmaceutical ones, this is what we used as a standard, and then it worked very well for sleep and mood because of that pathway.
Mm-hmm.
So this regulates mood, sleep. Then this goes to acetylcholine through folate. And that's brain function then. Phosphatidylserine, phosphatidylcholine, those are made through this pathway here, and that's where people feel fabulous, right? They can think, they don't have brain fog. But if you don't take B12 and you just take folate, maybe that'll work, but it's not going to work as well. And then B6 comes through here, and it makes glutathione, which is what detoxifies the body. So that B12, the methyl B12, is what starts off that pathway. But our goal with the hormones is to at least get the SAMe to convert the melatonin.
Okay.
All right, any questions?
Can I jump in right quick and just say, we've got a few people commenting on here. Hi, Trina, Kendra, Tina, Wendy, Teresa. Teresa Hall says, okay for children. I'm not quite sure what she was referring to. Maybe you might know. But
so clarify that though for what we're talking about.
Teresa, if you could clarify that question, okay for children, what did you mean by that? Jenny's also here, so is Wendy.
With the recent presidential live debates, maybe they're trying to make sure our jokes are going to be okay for kids. Is that right?
Is this show, this is PG, this is G rated, yes?
Well, I had some grab the hormones jokes, but I didn't know if that was funny. All right. It's not funny.
I'll plead the fifth.
So that's
okay.
Not kid friendly.
Okay.
All right, and I will try not to cuss.
Okay. Wendy says, what is the SAMe supplement? Where do you get it? She has trouble sleeping.
Yeah. Well, so SAMe, you can just buy at Walmart or Dillon's or the health food store. It is the most expensive supplement because it is $1 a pill. So to make sure it works, I would get a small package of it. You can go 400 milligrams to 1,600 milligrams, but really about 800 milligrams is where you want to start. And I've had a couple patients over the years that were very interesting ones. But again, knowing your pathways makes the difference. We had a boy that could never sleep, and I think he didn't sleep more than 3 to 5 hours a night since he was a baby. And so his parents ran out of options, nobody could help. And I said, well, here's the pathways. I don't know what's broken, but let's just force the end product to be made and see if that works. And so we gave him grapeseed extract, which is an antihistamine, so that downregulates that part of disruption of sleep. And we gave him SAMe at a high dose, and that night, boom, slept for 8 hours. And then I said, hey, now we got to figure out what works, how to really fix that thing. And he said, no, I'm just going to keep doing this. So he was just happy to sleep for the first time. And so he's continuously slept for 8 hours, which is awesome. And we had another patient, same thing, couldn't sleep. Boom, it worked. So doing that end product is the first start. With that is to say, if it's not working, try SAMe and try to make sure to go up on the doses to see what's therapeutic for you, because it is different, because SAMe runs other pathways. So you want to get that therapeutic dose. And then if it does work, then you got to say, okay, why am I not making SAMe? And that's usually because it's not up there anymore, B12. And if you do B12, you want methyl B12. And then besides that, you just want kombucha and escabeche and Bubby's fermented pickles and sauerkraut. And
So the start to all this, which was my original question, is beans, greens, and fermented foods.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's where you start.
And if you go to almost any other culture, that's what they're doing. It's beans, greens, fermented foods. And then they don't have to figure out how to balance the hormones. It just does it.
I'm still working on the beans.
Yeah.
I'm working on that. But so.
What else we have? Any other quick ones?
Couple of thank yous. Michelle says, take the SAMe at night. Yes?
Yeah, if you're doing it for sleep, I would probably do it a couple hours, maybe before bedtime. Again, you might kind of mess around and see what works best for you with that.
Yeah.
And there really isn't, one patient said it upset her stomach, but outside of that, I don't think I've ever had any other complaints. And within the research, there really isn't any side effects for that I know of.
Yeah. And then also, just reiterating, we've talked about this in previous talks, and I'm assuming you're going to agree that eventually you want to work towards being off the supplements, right?
Right.
You want to work towards getting all of those things from foods.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I don't take supplements, but if I can't sleep, then I take valerian root. If I am groggy because I didn't get enough sleep one day because I have 4 children, anything less than 4 is a vacation, am I right?
No.
She doesn't have any, so she's always on vacation.
Okay.
There's children or there's money, but you can't have both.
He's full of empathy and compassion for others.
I have 4 kids. 4 kids is like having 3 kids and drowning and somebody hands you another baby. Right? Something like that. Jim Gaffigan said it. All right, so yeah, long term, you don't want to need it, but there's times where I will take, 3 or 4 B12s just to get my brain back because I've been exhausting myself.
So it's kind of an as needed. You could have supplements, essential oils, herbs, all of that as needed.
They supplement instead of become your primary.
Right.
Supplement.
I'm still a little curious as how you end up down-regulating with something else. Is it because you're giving the body so much? That's what causes down-regulation?
Sorry.
How come you don't down-regulate with food?
No. So almost all medications have nutrient depletions.
Okay.
So in the processing of them, they will still or accelerate the use of a nutrient. So if you look at like metformin, it depletes B12. If you look at something like birth control, it's B6 and I think B3 and folate and everything you need for B vitamins, and magnesium too. And so then you end up getting side effects of all these different systems breaking down because those nutrients are so vital to those other pathways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not down-regulating them, you're exhausting them. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Exhausting the
nutrients.
Nutrients.
Right.
Okay. A couple of other questions. Michelle is asking, are individual B vitamins best, or can you do a B complex instead?
Yeah, you want complex because, again, like you saw, for that first one, you're talking about B2, B1, B3, B5, B6, B12. Well, yeah, you just want them all. And in nature, they're all together. Not in the same amounts, but they're all together. So they're all kind of synergistically working together. And
in the beans, greens, and fermented foods.
Right. And so if you take a B, you really want to take the complex, unless you're taking it for a very specific medicinal purpose. So we had a patient that had wet beriberi, which is Wernicke's encephalopathy with Korsakoff syndrome. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's so common.
So I had that patient, and that patient was just like, they couldn't. When you do that, it's B1 deficiency, and in your brain you use B1 to convert sugar to energy. So then their brain is crazy messed up, and they'll end up with confabulations. They have no idea how to create memories, how to recall memories, and so they're just living like Memento, basically, like that movie. So without killing the kid in the process. So it's just not like the movie, that part. So so that person, no, they got to do B1. Someone who just wants some energy to pick them up. So like if I have to work and research for patients till 2, 3 in the morning, I got to burn that midnight oil, but I don't want the crash with the coffee or the caffeine. Then I just use B6, and B6 will just make me wide awake without crashing. And if you take too many, you won't crash all freaking night, and you'll just be like, I guess I'm up watching Mr. Ed reruns,
Yeah. What about the difference between taking the methyl B, 5,000 micrograms of the methyl B, and the B complex?
Right. So typically, you won't find a 5,000 microgram dose of methyl B12 in a B complex. And so you don't get that therapeutic dose, so you do have to take separate with those.
Is that mostly if you're having mood issues, or with this process, with the hormonal process? Because last month we talked a lot about anxiety and depression, treatments for anxiety and depression. We talked a lot about methyl B.
Right.
How is methyl B? Is that necessary?
Yeah, absolutely. Because methyl B12 makes SAMe.
Oh, okay.
Methyl B12 is happiness and energy.
So you want both a B complex and the methyl B.
Right.
If you're supplementing. And
my standard dose that I use, and some people, I don't like cookie cutter, but this is one of those things of like, yeah, put oil, gas, and antifreeze in your car, right? Oh, that's cookie cutter. Well, no, just put the basics in there first. So, methyl B12, you like Now Brand, I think is what I use. Standard Process. There's all kinds of different ones. Country Life, KAL. Just make sure there's no artificial ingredients in there, which there typically isn't. But I like the Now ones because they're very tiny ones that you put on your tongue. They rapidly go into the blood. Now with the B complex, my favorite is coenzyme B complex by Country Life because they're all reduced B vitamins. And so you basically are negating the big part of that pathway and jumping right to where it's effective. So even B vitamins have to be broken down like those same pathways. So we just get to the end, get the therapeutic effect, and see if it works.
Yeah.
So
I think that kind of answers your question, Wendy, about recommending specific companies that make supplements.
Yeah, and I don't have any allegiance to any companies. There's good ones, there's bad ones, there's mediocre ones. The common thing that you want is therapeutic dose, therapeutic quality, no toxic ingredients. In general, if you walk into the health food store and you're just like, holy crap, I'm overwhelmed, go with Now Brand. Now Brand is the cheapest of the best without bad stuff in there. Otherwise, KAL, Solgar,
the Country Life.
New Chapter, Country Life. I mean, if you go to somewhere like Natural Grocers, they don't have crap there that I can see. If you go to some other health food stores, they might have really good stuff and then really bad stuff too. And that becomes very difficult. When I first started doing this, I would write out all these things for patients to get, and then they would come back with crap, and I would just be like, no, what are you, crazy? Do this, this, this. And they would come back with crap. And then finally I just went to the health food store and I was just like, oh, yeah, this sucks. Like, who the hell can figure this out? Like, every different brand had different, amounts of each thing, and they had other ingredients, and holy crap, I felt so bad for all those patients that I sent blindly to the health food store. So I went to, I think back then it was Naturally Of Course. Ted Hand was running it. I think he still is. But I took a clipboard and all the stuff because my office was closed, and there wasn't anything bad at that place. But at the other ones, oh my God, it was just a gamble sometimes. So that's where I would like to see other health food stores kind of step up and not have crap just because it's profitable.
Yeah.
You should be able to go to a health food store and blindly just grab stuff. Not Donald Trump grabbing stuff, but like health food store grabbing stuff. There we go. That's the line. Did I cross the line?
No.
All right.
No. And Natural Grocers is pretty well known for having a high standard on their foods and products.
Yeah,
in general.
And Dr. Allen, she works at as a health coach at the one, and nutritionist at the West Side? And so in Wichita, the West Side one. And then Dr. Damian Rowe is on the East Side, right?
Yes, East Side. That's what I am.
All right. So both of them, it's awesome because they have doctors in the store, which is crazy cool. And they can help you then cut through the bull crap and get what you need.
Yeah, they've also got great reference manuals. Mm-hmm. Like if you have no idea what to do, they've got a good herbal and a couple of good. Well, they've got a little bookstore, a little tiny little bookstore in there. But then they've got some reference manuals. If you don't know what the standardized amount is, you can go and check those out too.
And if you go into let's see, Green Acres. Go through the deli and through the double doors. So go behind the deli and through the double doors into the kitchen area. And then go back to the right. And there's a secret area there that doesn't exist. I'm just trying to get people to... Okay, never mind.
Thanks for staying on topic.
All right. So that is that pathway. Now, let's see.
10 minutes.
10 minutes? Well, you crazy.
We're talking a lot. 15 minutes. 15 minutes.
Okay, so let's hit a big one real quick.
Okay.
I know, let's do the small one. The small one's really fun. Okay, so tyrosine. Tyrosine is how you make thyroid hormone. Because thyroid is just tyrosine with 3 or 4 iodines. So that's all it is. So this would be T3. But on the other sense that we want to talk about for mood, tyrosine converts into L-DOPA. So, and it does this through B6. So, no it doesn't, that's not right.
Whoa.
It's through iron and oxygen. Iron is through dark greens, spinach, kale, chard, that kind of thing. So our tyrosine is going to make L-DOPA. L-DOPA can cross the blood-brain barrier and make dopamine, which then makes you healthy and happy, right? So then you have dopamine that's made without cheese, wheat, or sugar, right? Without the morphine or the cocaine kind of thing.
Whoa.
But it uses B6 to do that.
I have heard people compare tyrosine as a natural alternative to caffeine if you take it as a supplement. Is that true?
What? Tyrosine as a... Well, okay, so...
Yeah, as an energy booster.
No, you're talking about theanine.
No, I'm not.
Tyrosine? Mm-hmm. Well, if you take it and heat it up in a spoon with a butane lighter until it gets kind of really thick,
right?
And you add a little bit of water, put a cotton ball in there, take a syringe.
You know way too much about drug culture. I'm just saying.
I am watching Breaking Bad for the 3rd time, so kind of an expert.
Okay.
So, I don't know if that's true. That sounds made up, but it may be true.
But I've taken it before and felt great.
Well, and if it does, that's because you're helping making thyroid, and by making dopamine. So theoretically, it really should.
Okay.
Right? So with B6, we're back to that same thing. B vitamins, beans, greens, and fermented foods, take tyrosine and make you feel doped up and make you feel good. And what that means is with that B6, you don't need food that acts like drugs to make dopamine anymore. You just make dopamine and you cope just to cope. So that's how you feel awesome. You want to know how you take this and make it really bad? No.
Please tell us.
Oh, I'm not going to tell you now.
Well, I think I distracted a little bit, and you don't mean this as a supplement, right?
No. And again, I'm just talking about how food creates this. This is normal physiology, normal biochemistry. And
this is also still beans, greens, and fermented foods, or are we talking about others? Okay.
Same thing. I mean, iron is greens.
Yeah.
B6 is beans, greens, and fermented foods.
Okay.
So then, what we do as Americans is we say, I don't want to feel good. That's what those socialist countries are like. Who wants to feel like Italians and, the Danish, the happiest country in the world? That's communism. We want to be Americans, which is anxiety and stress because we buy stuff. That's the American way.
Right.
So, we don't want dopamine. We want to take dopamine and make epinephrine. And epinephrine is fight or flight. It's anxiety.
Okay.
So, we take happiness and we make it anxiety. Yeah.
With our stress. Okay.
Exactly. So, this can even happen as a result of eating like an American. So, like we said when we talked about anxiety and depression, we said that if you eat high glycemic foods, like cereal is sugar, milk is sugar, toast is sugar, orange juice is sugar, the jam is sugar, and you just eat like American, good healthy breakfast, you spike up blood sugar way too rapid, you drop it suddenly because we overproduce insulin because it's negative feedback, like we had the little figure 8 chart. And then you drop your blood sugar too low and you feel like crap. Your body then has to get that blood sugar back up to normal as fast as possible because the brain runs off sugar. So it uses epinephrine and cortisol to do that. So very quickly, we may start out the day with happiness and dopamine and be like, today's going to be good because I'm all doped up with normal hormones. And then I eat breakfast and now I'm freaking the hell out. And nobody knows why. But it's just diet. It's dietarily induced. Mm-hmm. Now, if you ate beans, greens, and fermented foods for breakfast, you're going to maintain that dopamine. You're going to feel good. All right. So the last one that we're going to do is the big one. It's the big punch. It's a double-barrel shotgun for how you feel. And this should explain everything that we talked about in the beginning. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Ready.
So, you start with cholesterol.
Oh, yeah, I remember this one.
And cholesterol does not cause heart attacks, right? It makes you feel awesome. It's 80% of your brain.
80%.
80% of your brain is jello. 20% is wiring.
With some people, that's obvious.
Yeah. Then 20% of every cell. So every single cell that turns over has to have a constant supply of cholesterol for that.
Okay.
But most importantly, for a lot of people, something as simple as vitamin D. Vitamin D starts out as cholecalciferol, 7-keto-cholecalciferol. That chol part is cholesterol. You can't make vitamin D without cholesterol.
Okay.
So if you take a drug that lowers cholesterol, if you take a vitamin that lowers cholesterol, you should have low vitamin D and you should feel depressed, especially during the wintertime. Mm. You should also have problems with your cells too, let alone the drugs block CoQ10, which then slows you down, makes you more likely to have diabetes and muscle wasting disease and all that other mess. We'll talk about that another time. So cholesterol, we'll say only, remember I'm from Texas, I can't spell very well, only good. Okay? And it's because the first hormone it makes is called pregnenolone. And pregnenolone, think of like pregnant. It's the mom of the rest of the hormones, but they all come from cholesterol. So we make something like progesterone. Progesterone. That's Texas, right? Yeah. Progesterone. No, I can't do it. Sweet tea. All right. So that's your feel-good hormone. Progesterone for women is what makes them feel like a woman. It makes them feel awesome, empowering. That's what,
That's what we're losing right before we start our periods.
Yeah. But most of them don't have much to start with because
it's already exhausted.
Right.
Okay.
And this is the key. It gets exhausted because we can convert it to cortisol. Cortisol is how we have stress. With the country with the most stress, we take our feel-good hormone and we make it as cortisol, and we thrive on that stress, and we buy stuff for that stress, and then we try to cope because of that stress.
So cortisol kind of steals from all these others.
That's right. This is where we exhaust it. Think about, we talked about this with money, right? This is your job that brings in the money. If you take something that downregulates that, you're taking a pay cut. So you're not going to feel good. This is your checking account. This is your ATM card.
Ooh.
So starting off, same thing we said with this.
Deep.
Whether we're talking about money or whether we're talking about hormones, bankruptcy and exhaustion are the same exact process. So, if every time I'm stressed and Fox News tells me ISIS is at the border, it's at the mall, it's at my high school trying to join the football team, right, and recruit other kids for the ISIS football league. That's not even real. So, it doesn't matter because we're talking about Fox. Every time you do that, every time you listen to a radio program that says this is why you should be angry, be angry, 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 be scared, scared, be scared, America! They are screwing your hormones.
Yeah.
And when those things do not happen that they lie about, that they get you all jacked up with fear to sell their commercials, they don't give you your hormones back. So the easiest way to save your hormones at the beginning is shut the TV off.
Being used, people. You're being used.
So this is that first part. The other thing is, it makes DHEA. This is your anti-aging hormone. And that's what keeps you young and healthy and fabulous for the longest period of your life. Right? So if you want to be 60 and be like, what's up, girls? Right, let's go run the town. Or you want to be 60 and going, hey, you guys want to play bingo? The same age, different people. Yep. And it's because of that hormonal outcome. It's because what they do from 20 to 60 determines what they look like at 60, how much function they can have at 60. And this is why. And then DHEA makes testosterone. And testosterone is your sex drive, sexy sex drive, for men and women, and it's your driving life.
Motivation?
Yeah, you get up and go. So if your get up and go has gone up and went, you know why. You've exhausted this. And
through this?
Through that.
Through that still? Sorry.
So, DHEA, since it's our long term, is our 401k. That's our long-term investment. Okay. And then testosterone is our savings account. So, let's think about this picture again. We are living beyond our means. Every time we get stressed, every time we exhaust ourselves, every time we don't take a vacation, every time we think everything's going to fall apart, negativity, every time we watch the news, every time we hear and join and participate in negativity, we steal our progesterone and then we just don't feel good. But that's not a problem because we'll just steal from our savings account to make more progesterone. But we keep using our ATM card and we wipe through our checkings and savings. Not a problem. We'll steal from the 401k. Sex drive kind of balances back out, but stress never changes. And eventually, we don't have checking, we don't have savings, and our 401k is gone, which translates to I don't feel good, my get up and go is gone, my lipido's in the trash, and I'm aging faster and I feel older than I am. And that, my friends, is hormone exhaustion. So, all right.
And that's not just for women, that's for anyone.
That's right.
Right?
Now, men have a totally different hormone. No, that's not true. This is exactly the same for men. Exactly the same. So, the key, as we go through this, is we're going to talk about how to eat to build these. Right? Next time, we'll talk about how to eat to build your hormones.
We've already started with beans, greens, and fermented foods. Right? We know about that.
So then what is the most important part of this whole picture that we have?
The most important part?
Yeah, where do we screw up the most as far as over-exhausting hormones? That's right. So our third week, we're going to talk about not exhausting your hormones so you can then balance your hormones. Same thing, money. Should I make more money so I can keep exhausting my bank account? Or should I stop, frivolously spending every time I get stressed? I should just feel good, feeling good. And if you do those two things, if you eat for your hormones, your neurotransmitters, and you stop exhausting those, don't buy into that kind of nonsense, then you don't have to take bioidenticals. You don't have to take synthetics. You don't have to take anything. You just have to have a sustainable lifestyle with life and longevity. I love this talk.
I do too. How are you guys doing? We haven't heard from anybody in a while. Does anybody have any last few questions, thoughts, concerns? If you do, please jump in and say so.
Yeah. And we'll answer questions off the air too. Okay, so if you think of stuff, feel free to post it.
I'm still thinking of things from ladies' perspective still, but we're running out of time, so I'm sure we'll get those addressed as well.
Yeah.
Ladies jump in, guys jump in too. Wendy says it's all good stuff to know. It really is. I mean, does seem so general. We've had several of these talks now for 2 months, and it does seem to be coming back to the same thing.
Right. And that's why of all the patients all around the world that I have, that are all falling apart, and they'll look, you posted our live feed schedule, and I've had so many people already come say they read through all these things and like, that's me. Well, of course it's you, because you live in America, right? You do what it takes to cause anxiety and depression, whether you know it or not. And so it's one thing, the two things that kind of prevent us from health is ignorance and complacency. That sounds rude, but it's not. Ignorance is, I just don't know what's making me feel bad.
Right.
And complacency is, I don't give a crap, I'm going to do what the hell I want and feel like crap. And that's okay. For complacency people, there are medications, there's talk therapy, there's supplements, there's all kinds of things that you can do to maintain and be complacent. The real people that we're after here to explain this stuff is the ones that want to know why. And that's what separates really good doctors from really bad doctors, is being able to explain why. Mm-hmm. That's the key. So, we'll have more talk about all this. I hope you really enjoyed this. I think this, to me, has changed my practice as far as when we talk about simplicity cures. It's once you know this stuff, then it's kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah, the cure is fairly simple. I do think that this part is interesting, though. It's interesting to know how it works. It's interesting to know that you're stealing from your aging here, you're losing sex drive here. It's interesting to know the mechanisms about how it works. I think that part's important too.
Yeah, and the same picture too, now that we have it all drawn out, think about this. If I take a cholesterol blocking medication, or if I take niacinamide or niacin to help block cholesterol production naturally, or if I take red yeast rice, which you absolutely shouldn't either, those all downregulate this, which then causes depression because of this, which then causes hormone exhaustion because of this, which then we have low testosterone for men and women. And it's absolutely insane that we do that. We literally cause the problem and then say, hey, there's an epidemic of this problem, what should we do? Well, let's create a chemical that will then replace that, which then will probably kill you anyways. Or downregulate you, make you feel horrible. So you don't want to take hormones, you want to make hormones. The other thing is, we might not talk about this before, but if your doctor's ever said that you don't make hormones, that's not true at all, because you're alive. A 110-year-old woman still makes the hormones. So, for women, 20% of these feel-good hormones are made by the adrenal glands and 80% by the ovaries. After menopause, you still make hormones because you still have to live a healthy lifestyle, or a long, healthy, happy lifestyle. So then 80% goes to the adrenal glands, 20% goes through to the ovaries. If you have the ovaries completely removed through a complete hysterectomy or oophorectomy, then 100% of those hormones go through the adrenal glands. The problem that we have with this long term is that your adrenal glands are designed to really handle stress, not happiness. And so then choosing to not be hormonally exhausted becomes even more important for hormonal balance.
Interesting.
And if you want, I'll draw that out next time too.
Yeah.
So, because that's very, very important.
Yeah, it also just really comes down to starting to take much, much, much better care of yourself.
Yeah.
Not just through nutrition, but going easier on yourself in so many different ways.
So what's your take home?
It's that. Thinking about, I think that everybody has something unique that is pulling on there, that is stressing them. Find that, search for that. It may be something very subtle, but know that it's that and it's there and it's discoverable. But really my take home is go easier on yourself. And it may be in subtle ways you never thought about before, but find those ways to be easier on yourself. Emotionally and mentally, physically, in the ways that you can, and starting small, but just start considering that.
Yeah.
Because it's life-saving.
Absolutely.
It's quality of life, not only life-saving, but quality of life-saving.
Yeah. I think the hardest thing or the most concerning thing I've ever heard was when women start to feel better, they say, "You mean I could have felt this way for the last 20 years?" That's the messed up part. That this message isn't a part of every primary care. So, take-home message for me is if you know how the body works and you know how we mess it up, the solutions become that easy to fix. It's the doing that's the hard part, but the simplicity is the cure.
Yeah.
So next week we're going to talk about eating for hormones. We might even talk about some recipes and post some recipes too. But a lot of the stuff that we eat literally depletes your hormones. And that's why when we see teenagers now, we'll see girls and guys that can't even stay awake without Red Bulls.
Yeah. I would be interested, too, to know a little bit more about specific hormonal diseases or some case studies in that sense. People struggling with specific things that are hormonally related.
That's the
Fourth one, case studies. Okay,
all right.
We're there. I forgot about our plan.
That's right. And the third one, we'll talk about not exhausting your hormones, and then we'll talk about application on the fourth one. So, thank you guys for attending, and I really appreciate it. I love doing this, so I'm glad you guys are a part of this. And feel free to post us, share us.
We'll answer any questions afterward that we didn't answer tonight.
Please like us.
So
Please.
like us. We need you.
Okay. All right, and I'll get rid of my cough. I've been doing essential oils for it, and so I don't know what's going on here. So we'll get it better. So,
Okay.
all right, bye, you guys. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week.